previous game ended in under 5 minutes, for the record, for anyone who is curious about that little bit of information. Again, we apologize for the delay, guys. We will get into a game here finally, though. And we will have to see how this ends up going.
Whoa. That was amazing.
They forgot to set it to draft mode.
That was amazing. I got lost. But yeah, we will be jumping into the draft. It's going to be on Sky Temple, so a map that I really, really enjoy.
And it will be East Coast Revolvers versus Helix Esports. This is game 2 of their series. East Coast Revolvers is banning Show. I'm guessing that last game was really one-sided, because that's just not a serious ban. It's actually, there's an art to drafting a comp that can completely dominate the early game so hard that you can just end really quickly. I really wish I could have seen the previous draft. You really need heroes like Hammer, Zarya, or Sylvanas, something like that, to have that single target siege damage. If you have a good enough wave clear and you can just pressure in, single target damage will allow you to just melt buildings, something like Greymane, like Bala. Obviously, going into that first draft, you wouldn't know that, but you can also have stuff like Kerrigan to really secure kills. So I'll be curious to see what exactly they end up going for here after that show ban. I actually just got the login info for the stream. So I've been streaming just with the stream key, but now I should have the login info, so I'm actually gonna take a quick break, take a quick second here, log in to the account and make sure that we are in fact streaming Heroes of the Storm on the dashboard. Apologize for the fact that we were not doing that yet, but now we will be. Grizz can give his commentary on this draft. We were just talking about how it is when you have a team where two teams where one game was that one-sided, there's a certain element art to drafting an early game comp that you can really dominate with.
Interesting. So giving up double globals, I can see what East Coast Revolver might be thinking with the Vikings pick, but it's pretty dangerous to give up double global against Vikings just because of the fact that you can then stick them in that lane and then at any time take a fight, and then those two globals will show up and then you have a 5v4 fight.
So we are now officially streaming Heroes of the Storm.
So ETC Mouth, very strong. And obviously we're going to see them working around in that 4-man, but what are your thoughts on Vikings on Sky Temple?
Vikings are actually really good on Sky Temple. It's something we only really see EU teams do consistently. Apparently we're getting this info from chat. Last draft was in fact Greymane, Morales, Zarya, ETC, Sylv. So that's a lot of heroes. That's literally everything that they needed. And apparently the map was Battlefield of Eternity. So yeah, that's a game. That's a comp that can end early, very, very quickly on that. That's literally first immortal material. You just raise the first immortal, get a full shield, and fishing the Sylv. The keep's dead while the immortal's still basically at full health, and then core's dead. They also banned Gall.
Are we seeing some BM?
Is it like it? not taking a team seriously when you out push them that hard, I'm not sure that's bad manner really, as long as the first draft was taken seriously. But this is one of those things that sometimes happens too when you have a tournament where literally anyone is free to sign up. You're going to have some teams that have put a lot more practice in, are a lot more confident. Some teams are here, they know they're not very good, and they're here more for fun, to have this an experience of playing at this level, to see where they are. And in a lot of cases, it's just a good learning experience to be like, okay, we're going to go up against this team. We're going to have this replay. We can watch the replay. We can understand how they got so far ahead so fast, and maybe we can do that to another team. Maybe we can take advantage of that and learn something interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it too. Just getting the experience. Hopefully that's what they take out of this. This draft though from East Coast Revolvers is a fairly strong draft. I don't know how much I like the Thrall with the Vikings, but the 4-man that they will have is very potent. So I actually think both drafts are very strong on Sky Temple though.
The nice thing about Thrall is you can stick him on the temple itself, and he can sustain. So you don't have to. Everyone else can zone, and then you have slide route Jaina for the burst, and Thrall can operate slightly independently while the Vikings are soaking all the lanes. So it's an interesting adjustment there to have that one sustaining hero. They could have drafted something else in that spot and been in really good shape, though. I'm a little bit surprised it's the Thrall, but maybe this is like more of a comfort thing right now.
How do you feel about Jaina in this 4-man?
I love the Jaina. There's two ways of running Vikings comps. One is you go murder people repeatedly, and in that case you just need a 4-man that has a certain amount of lockdown plus burst. And Jaina, Blizzard's on 15-second cooldown, but her combo is the largest burst combo in the game. So just walk around and kill people. I like to call it the murder hobo, which is basically what every D&D group ever technically is. And that's where I stole it from my years and years and years of playing D&D.
I mean, they do have a great amount of CC on everyone. Jaina's the only one without an actual form of like hard CC, I guess. You're going to have roots from Malf, from the Thrall, and the stun from the ETC. But if we want to introduce these teams on this blue side, it is going to be East Coast Revolvers. That is going to be Aramis on the Lost Vikings, Kallen on the Jaina, Akuma on the ETC, Klug on the Thrall, and Chaos Gus on the Malfurion.
And on the right hand side of the map, we will have Helix Esports, J-Rad on Li Ming, Reaper on Murden, Soken on Volstad, Gon Dragoon on the Haka, and on that Rhaegar, we will have Sara and Dippity. Yes, you heard it here first. That's actually a really cool name. I don't think I've ever seen quite that spelling before. And it looks like both teams are gonna be thinking about this bottom lane. There's a little bit of cheese going on. The nice thing about this is they have the Haka, so the Haka can be here, get the power, help clear the wave, and then immediately go top of the essence. We're gonna see a beautiful collapse here. That is a free Blizzard with no setup, but it does hit for a lot of damage. Rhaegar ends up going down first. The Haka barely manages to burrow out, and they don't actually manage to get any other kills. So considering the fact that they were there as 5, it's actually really unfortunate that they lost a hero there.
Yeah, and now Soken gonna make the go onto Aramis on this Viking in the mid lane. He's able to just sneak on out. We're gonna see a different Viking kill. I think that was in the top lane.
Yeah, a little off. The Fat Man has sung his last breath until he comes back to life momentarily. And we're gonna see it again here. We're seeing this rotation here consistently. Eric actually going down in the bot lane now. But Helix Esports is actually playing safe. They are putting themselves in a situation where they call the rotations and they back up. Now, it looks like the Haka will get caught out here. The root on the burrow is going to guarantee the Blizzard value right there. A little bit of a boot there by Akuma, and that is going to be a kill.
Yeah, he went for the burrow out, but unfortunately Akuma was ready for that. We're going to hear a lot of hero slayings, I feel like, across this game. Most of the time it will be those Vikings. But in this bottom lane, a nice push here from Helix Esports, just going to try to get some pressure around the map, but they are also giving up both temples to East Coast Revolvers.
Yeah, I don't mind the pushing, but giving up both temples I feel is fairly questionable. There's also 4 people bot, so they are missing the soak mid as well. They're not distributing their resources around the map in such a way that they're going to end up ahead. You can see they're falling behind in experience, not soaking every lane. This is one of the things that Vikings really punishes. If you don't have good decision making in terms of soaking your lanes consistently, Vikings will put your team ahead. Normally in competitive, Vikings start to win in a very, very late game when they can consistently pressure all 3 lanes, and they act as a pseudo-global almost. But not in this case, and giving up the objective like that is going to put Helix Esports very far behind.
Yeah, they're going to try to return that bottom fort, and they're able to do so, leaping out his Reaper, so he's going to be walking away, but experience going over the side of East Coast Revolvers, almost a full level at this moment in time. He gets the grab onto Akuma, though, in that top lane, but I don't think he's going to be able to secure that kill, unfortunately. Yeah, I'd like to see how the Vikings starts to progress, or how this Vikings comp, rather, starts to progress towards this later game.
This is kind of a weird dynamic. Normally, you really want to sit together as a 4-man when you have Vikings. We're seeing Jaina and Thrall be split up, ETC and Malf were together. That has no kill potential. They did get a kill on the false edge mid here once Malf, Thrall, Jaina are back together. ETC is now here as well. Kalen low on mana, but he has Malf. That doesn't really matter. Innervate will be coming down. And you can see them clearing the waves and aggressively trying to push in. The more you clear waves when you have a Vikings comp, the harder it actually is for the Vikings to soak safely, which is one of the reasons we keep seeing the Vikings get picked off over and over again. A little bit of an aggressive move here, pushing into the camp, making it away. That's going to give them a lot of pressure in the bot lane and make it more likely that they win the next temple.
Yeah, they are getting these double camps. They're going to put a lot of pressure down into this bot lane. Dahaka, though, he's trying to pressure up in that top. I would like to see him play really aggressive there after he sees the rotation down in this bot lane from East Coast Revolvers. They're kind of just really forcing up on this. So I would like to see him get aggressive, hopefully try to kill that Viking, and then put a lot of pressure up top. Oddly enough, though, Night Camp's not being taken yet.
I mean,
more concerned with the push.
Kill the fort. Right, we're going to see an aggressive. They're pushing way past the fort for these kills. Plug is going to be able to secure the kill onto that Rhaegar with that chain lightning. And Akuma, extremely low, is going to get that self-heal going on. He's stunned, but he's getting peeled for by his Thrall, actually. And not very often you see Thrall peeling for his tank instead of the other way around. So they managed to back out, securing that kill and getting the entire bottom fort.
Yeah, that means that this bottom temple, and already damage being done to that mid fort, this bottom temple is going to be able to secure that. Might even secure top fort as well. I'm kind of on the fence.
I think it's low enough that that's a realistic possibility, and we're going to be a situation where they have 10 and all of the outer structures are going to be dead, which means they can do something like secure boss if they choose to do that. They can then turn that into bottom keep if they push really aggressively and get that damage. You can see Akuma's already starting to rotate towards the middle jungle here, and I wouldn't actually be surprised at all. It looks like they're looking for a pick first, so you can see the rotation around. You're going to see Earthquake into the mosh pit, and that is going to be 2 heroics burned just to kill the Rhaegar. And that's enough. Like, when you're 10 to 8, what are you really saving them for if not to just get a kill and get further ahead on the map?
Yeah, it does look like they are going to rotate over to this boss now. Starting it up is Thrall. Now, it's going to be a bit slower, considering that they do have Vikings, so it's going to be 4 heroes on this. But the side of Helix Esports doesn't seem to know this is going on. They're more concerned with getting 10 at the moment, getting out that Night Camp, just trying to regain some pressure across the map. So this is going to be a free boss, and I would really like to see them push down into this bottom lane with the boss. Yeah,
I think that opening up a keep would be really, really good for them. There would be catapult pressure for the remainder of the game. We're going to see 5-man push top. Again, despite the fact they have double global, they're not consistently soaking multiple lanes. They're trying to catch up in experience by pushing down structures, which is not how you do that. The minions are worth a lot more experience. Structures have a fixed amount of XP that does not scale over time. Minions scales over time. So even though you have to kill structures to win the game, you have to kill minions to get enough experience to catch up when you're behind like this.
Yeah, we're gonna see them. They're pushing on into this keep. They do have level 10. We're gonna see the Gust come out. They really need to start burning down this boss, and it looks like the side of East Coast Revolvers, they are gonna back up. So this boss able to be cleaned up. It does put them very far ahead structurally. So it looks like they're moving on to the mid wall as well.
And this is a really clever thing to do. Whenever you're on Sky Temple, every structure matters. It's not like most maps where one lane is enough. Each temple gets you a little bit closer to core, and getting the wall means that a mid temple will get you the keep. Bottom temple will now guarantee secure bottom keep, which will open up the cattle pressure. So every structure you get the old-fashioned way, let's say, is one less shot you need from temples in order to end the game. And maybe that wall put them from needing 4 temples to end, or needing 5 temples and only needing 4. So now they're 2 temple phases away from ending instead of 3. That's a really big difference in terms of closing out the game. Because when you have a lead like this, oh, nice pick on the Rhaegar. You want to end the game as quickly as possible to give the enemy team the fewest number of chances to catch up.
Yeah, and now securing that kill on a Rhaegar, they can start to pressure forward. Actually, Murden going to be in trouble. The slide goes out onto him. Gus, unfortunately, not in time. Now we do have 2 temples spawning with 2 heroes dead. The side of East Coast Revolvers now should easily be able to secure both of these, and probably it's going to be bot keep and possibly mid keep.
I think with that wall, it actually is going to be mid keep. It's going to go down because there's going to be some leftover shots from bottom, and those will prioritize mid. That's assuming they get both. We do see Artemis actually using play again on the bottom temple, so now Vikings are here in force. Vikings can 3v1 only main, if she, especially since she does not have force armor. But we're gonna see him just jump out of there and run. Is gonna get away. No, he's gonna die. No. Olaf ends up going down, and that saves bottom keep for them. But they are still gonna lose mid, and they're not as far behind as they could be. Really, this is a situation where if they can get 13, force a fight, win it, and then pick up boss and get a keep, they'll have opened up a win condition for themselves and have caught up a little bit.
Yeah, if they can take that fight, that'd be great. But Reaper, a bit caught out. They should be able to take him down. I think he's already used his leap, and now they can pressure up onto this bottom keep. They're going to be able to take that. That will then secure them 16, and now they are very, very far ahead. But the Gust, once again, going to come out trying to disengage this, and I think actually 16 going to be picked up, yeah, right now. So this is very dangerous for the side of Helic Esports.
Yeah, that's a 2 talent tier advantage. Fighting down 1 talent tier in a 5v5 is basically impossible. This is a 2 talent tiers. That's going to be Ring of Frost thrown out. Rhaegar actually lives through that. No one dies! Serendipity made a liar out of me. He ended up going down anyway. He did try to get the disengage. No heroics are available, so this is a very, very bad fight. That's a beautiful Twilight Dream, hitting all 4 of the members who are actually alive. Nice drag onto ETC, but Akima's just going to be like, thank you, I needed to be here anyway. Gets a nice stun. Did he dance right there? I swear that
I think we're just seeing BM coming out now.
Maybe. I think he may be right. That's a little unfortunate, but that's going to be the Vikings pushing in top lane, getting that keep with the camp and the Merc Lord value, and we're going to see 3 lanes all pushing directly onto core with still a talent tier advantage, still up 5v4 for the moment.
Yeah, this should be game if they can just get these Siege Giants onto core. They'll go onto Rhaegar. Gonna be able to walk out, but the core is dropping rapidly, 36%. They just need to AFK in core, and they're gonna put this game away. So that looks like that's gonna be game number 2, going over to East Coast Revolvers. So that's gonna be the clean 2-0 in this first round.
Yeah, and they will advance. That was considering the last game was like under 6 minutes apparently from secondhand reports. We can only assume that was an improvement.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was just not understanding fully how to play against the Vikings. With you bringing up the fact that there's 2 ways to play with the Vikings, I think there's 2 very standard ways to play against Vikings as well, and that is to understand. One of the ways is to understand that every team fight is going to be a 4v5. And if you can keep on even talents, you can take those 4v5 fights around objectives and ultimately win those if you're team fighting correctly. The second, obviously, being they did have 2 globals, so I think the second might have been a better choice, and that's to dodge the ganks that are coming in. Both Dahaka and Falstad do push waves very well. Falstad has to kind of wait till 7, but Dahaka does it. And you can kill off the Vikings or just pressure the Viking lanes. And they're kind of caught in between trying to do both of those.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it takes a little bit more practice to get used to it. Obviously, Vikings are not a standard meta pick in North America, despite the fact that they're a little more popular in other regions. So it's not necessarily something you have a lot of practice scrimming against. If you do even scrim consistently, have consistent scrim partners. But moving on, I think we're going to continue to follow East Coast Revolvers up the bracket here, and they will be going up against Gear Gaming next, which, not to be confusing, the store, which is also sponsoring the tournament, is invested in the scene and does sponsor a team as well. They performed relatively well in the HGC Open, as well as several other amateur tournaments. And they're definitely trying to give their all and bring the win to the home team, essentially, in this tournament.
Yeah, I think we spoke on it a little bit at the beginning. It is a team that won the Heroes type, the finals of Heroes type. So definitely a formidable team. They had a good performance there. So I'm excited to see what they can do in this tournament. So I think did they have a buy or did they already finish? Yeah, Gear had a buy, so they should be hanging around, getting ready to go.
I'm getting pinged by admins who are asking me questions about the way the bracket's going to work. They get to decide, but they're asking me for ideas. I think is pretty reasonable.
Okay, so I got a bit of an insider here too. So I have someone that'll be letting me know what the map pick ban situation is.
Oh, you can get us a lobby. I was gonna. That was my next thing on my agenda, but I'm not even gonna have to do that now.
Yeah, I have someone on one of the teams, so in that private chat that we can't see, I'll be updated on.
Awesome.
Updated on what the picks and bans are, which will be a lot nicer because kind of we generally go into the lobby a little bit blind, if you will, where we don't know what map it's going to be or what maps were banned up until we kind of get in there, and then we just kind of see what maps are being played in the series. So it looks like they're just waiting on brackets to update, and then we will be jumping straight on into the drafts.
So it looks like 3D versus Team No Sleep is still going on. So that would have been I guess that would have been a close series. I wish we could have cast that one instead. Conbox C did finally default, for those of you who were curious. So Nice will be coming with imported support, but imported support is going to have to wait until Thursday for that to play. So that bracket just deadlocks there for the moment. Cyber Scorpions versus Salty Cat is still going. The winner of that will face Thunder Awaken, and then that will move up, and that's where that bracket will stop. Hopefully we can get in. We might be able to get into those games if that first set goes all the way to game 3, and then we'll be all caught up with where the bracket can be today, and then we will move on to the remainder of the bracket Thursday, when all of the HGC Open teams that are participating today will be available to play.
Okay.
So we worked it out. The scheduling issues happened, and we're doing our best with the situation that we've sort of been put in, because we really wanted to make sure we were including all these teams, because it would not have been a fair representation in my mind of the North American amateur scene to not include them when they are going to be going up against the HGC teams, the professional teams. If it had just been, whoever wasn't free and didn't qualify for top four HGC Open this week, it would not have been as competitive. So we really wanted to make sure we included them.
I mean, I think that's really the only way you can do it as well. These teams, obviously, they made it to the second day of the HGC Open, and if you want, like you spoke of, to have a fair representation of the map, you really, or of the scene rather, you really need to have the top teams in there, especially when in Pro-Am.
Yeah, absolutely. And never mind.
They are starting map bans right now, so I'll be getting updated on that. So,
excellent.
I believe, looks like they are. Gear Gaming is going to be first pick. They won the coin toss, so they will be doing the picks and bans, and we get to actually discuss those as we go. So I'm actually pretty excited.
And if you guys like this idea, particularly because I know there's a lot of huge supporters of Heroes of the Storm in general in chat, if you guys like this idea, make sure you tell your friends about it, because next week we're going to have this week we're going to get the top 4 amateur teams from our bracket, but then next week it's going to be the top 4 amateur teams that we have from this week against the professional teams. And that's an idea that tickles your fancy. It seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, it is going to be Naventic, Gale Force Esports, No Tomorrow, and Superstars. I know there's a lot of people in chat who are a Faye hype. I have not seen Faye play in a while, and I'm looking forward to being able to cast that. I cast Superstars all the way up their HGC qualifier all 3 weeks, all 3 times that they did it. And they got in that last one, and I was just so happy for them. So it's going to be a real treat for me to cast them again, hopefully. And I get to cast my team. I'm GFE Cavalier Guest, and I actually get to cast Gale Force Esports. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Superstars always brings that really interesting meta with them too. They showed in HGC that they can obviously play standard, and they're not afraid to do so. But man, do they have a lot of pocket drafts that they can pull out.
Yeah, so a lot more going on Thursday, and this will be smoother on Thursday. There's always the first time's always awkward. It's just the way it is. So this is our first time casting on this channel. We had a lot of King's Iron out. We weren't streaming Heroes of the Storm as far as the world was concerned for a little bit there. Twitch, we did not have the game up on Twitch, but this go around on Thursday, everything will be cleaned up, and then the production value on Tuesday is going to be out of this world. No promises on that, but there's some cool things that I am in no way in charge of, because I'm not an artistic person, that are being prepared for the coming weeks. This is going to be a 3-week tournament, so we're here for the long haul.
So I did just get updated. It looks like East Coast Revolvers banned out Warhead, and then Gear Gaming banned out Sky Temple. And now we are waiting on East Coast Revolvers to select their first map. Like we spoke before, Gear Gaming will have first pick, so map pick does go on over to East Coast Revolvers, and Towers of Doom will be our first map in this series.
I wish we could have a link to a specific person on Discord. These funny things. Looks like we're in the lobby. This is convenient. It's always nice when someone else does this, and I can focus on doing other things. Apparently, we're now on Gear Gaming. No, we're not. We moved into the casters.
It's nice to get teams that are in lobby too. It's going to be nice to get into the lobby, but like we said, when you do have this, the first one, a little bit of a delay sometimes to get the kinks worked out with the first match of the night. Now we're moved on over. We got this. People will be ready. But you know what? Going up, East Coast Revolvers now going up against a tough opponent. Maybe that BM will come back to bite them
We'll have to see. It looks like the bot that was supposed to be set up for the channel has not yet been set up for some of the commands, unfortunately, but we will get those set up for next time. Again, this is being hosted by a brick and mortar store whose primary game is Magic the Gathering. They don't have a lot of experience setting things up like this, and it wasn't literally until like 5 minutes ago that I got the login for the Twitch channel, or I would have set all these things up for them. I talked to them, they said it would be ready to go, but this is one of those things. People have a learning process when you're first doing events like this, and it's going to get better real fast. We are going to get in this draft. East Coast Revolvers versus Gear Gaming. Vikings banned out immediately. I think they were watching that last game, maybe. And then the Dahaka response, which I like quite a bit.
Yeah, that was a snap ban on Vikings. Obviously, what that shows me too is that you're comfortable beating someone in a head-up matchup. When you ban out something like that, you want them to play you standard. So, Gear Gaming moving on over here into this first pick, and I wouldn't with the Dahaka banned out, I wouldn't mind seeing a Falstad first pick here, and then that's what we're gonna see.
I shouldn't have called that one. And I like that. There's like I think there's 7 or 8 globals in the game right now. Some of them are heroic, some of them are mounts, alternative mounts, but there's not that many that we usually consider to be competitively viable at the top level of play. Falstad and Dahaka are really the top 2 that don't require any sort of odd situational things. So, but the Dahaka ban, you take the Falstad, globals are really good on Towers of Doom. My concern here is exactly this. You can take Zeratul, who's he's a pseudo-global, and he has a constant pressure on the Falstad, forcing the Falstad to play safe, because Zeratul can easily 1v1 Falstad with that Vorpal Blade, with that burst damage, and Malfurion alone is enough of a follow-up to VP, even if you could ban or take everything else that synergizes with VP, which is nigh impossible.
Yeah, I am surprised that TAS made it this far, and I think that East Coast Revolvers has done their homework a little bit here, because Gear Gaming has run that Tracer, and they picked up the TAS already, so it looks like they're more worried about the Tracer than the Vala, and I agree with that. I think Tracer gets so much more value with shielding than the Vala actually does. Obviously, Vala in no way is a bad hero to shield, but Tracer just... how her kit works, the amount of health she has, and how the lifesteal mechanic works, it makes her... You can just throw a shield on her, and you actually don't really have to give her heals. She can kind of sustain herself with just shielding.
Yeah, so we are looking at... Looks like they're going to ban the Zarya. They're sort of banning the other shielder. This is one of the things that you have to consider when you have a Malf. They don't really have burst healing, so banning the shield is really, really strong. They are going to ban the Abathur instead, though, and I like that decision quite a bit. Abathur with a hat, or Zeratul with a hat, is a gank machine in the early game, and then double Zeratul hunting down a squishy backliner is something that's really difficult to deal with, and they're going to have some sort of squish with the Tassadar. You don't draft a Tassadar and then not draft the glass cannons to take advantage of the power that shielding gives.
I stand ready.
So they're gonna deny pick the Vala. This is, in my opinion, gonna be like 100% gray main. In my professional opinion, it's gonna be gray main plus main tank. I don't. Oh wow!
That is not a gray main.
That's a hero.
That's a Zul'jin.
that's a hero.
And a Muradin. I like the Muradin pickup. I'm not sold on that Zul'jin. We've only seen Zul'jin played really competitively on Brax's Holdout, because the constant skirmish allows him to get ridiculous number of stacks on his level 1 quest very, very quickly. He gets that increased range, suddenly he's very safe. But are you skirmishing enough on Towers of Doom, particularly against a hero that has stealth? But then East Coast Revolvers picks up Arthas, and I'm thinking about this. You can kite an Arthas forever as a Zul'jin if you just juke the root. Like, that's his only gap closing mechanic. So if you put Zul'jin in a lane against an Arthas, you're going to be in pretty good shape.
It's also important to note, I feel, like, that they don't have an insane amount of burst. I mean, Vala does good damage. Zeratul kind of bursty, but not really in the sense of just blowing up a Zul'jin. So I would expect him to very easily get off Tezdingo during these fights with Tassadar shielding. And then to follow that up, I would expect to see an Ancestral off the back of Tezdingo. So this could be a very potent comp. And when you have this slow-moving front line of ETC Arthas kind of coming at you, obviously the slide can be used for engage, but Arthas is walking towards you. That entire time you're trying to get to Zul'jin, you're going to be eating very powerful auto attacks.
It's you got to run the gauntlet.
Yeah, even though I don't know about the Zul'jin pick, I'm still in favor of Gear Gaming's draft. Overall, the Zul'jin still fills that auto-attacking slot that you need with Tassadar. But on this left side, in the blue trunks, it is going to be East Coast Revolvers, and that will be Artemis on the Zeratul, Colin on the Vala, Akuma on the Malfurion, Zalcor on the Arthas, and Klug going to be playing the ETC.
On the right hand side of the map, we will have Mysticles on Falstad, Need Him on Rhaegar, Percival on Muradin, Skullkid on Zul'jin, and LMAO on Tassadar. And they're all doing the pro thing, hiding their level 1 talents for as long as possible. They instantly get we actually seeing Wingman picked up. That is not a normal talent on this map, or in general, really. But I kind of like the idea. Sappers are really strong. We are going to see Colossal Totems, so going for that full E-build. Third Wind, and Tassadar going for the auto attack.
Percival doing a really good job here about cutting rotations. He is not going to let this team rotate through safely. I think he'll just be trying to zone for the most part, trying to just stop enemy rotations. But they move the Zeratul down, Klug on that ETC. He's already down here. Bomb from that Zeratul, unable to connect. And I kind of wanted to get your opinion on this draft. I know I kind of rambled on about the draft a little bit, but who do you favor in this draft?
I favor Gear Gaming a little bit because, yeah, without a burst healer and with this level of control that the Muradin can bring, I don't feel like Arthas' lack of initiation can be really heavily punished here. So I think they're a little bit stronger overall. I also don't like the fact that the new talent Frost Presence picked up at level 1. I think that if you're an Arthas, you pretty much have to go Rhyme. You need that early game survivability to really pressure. And you can see he's getting bullied by Falstad here in the top lane. He's sustaining, but his wave clears... normally you lose a lane a little bit earlier, and then you pick it up before with Biting Cold. Biting Cold's not a talent anymore. So...
Yeah, and he's the only hero in the game with 3 block charges, too. So makes him very tanky against, especially a Zul'jin Falstad. You're going to be getting hit with auto attacks. You could be mitigating a lot of that, but we are going to see it go into the altar phase. We do have the mid and then both top spawn. So let's see how these teams choose to play this. They're showing in mid lane at the moment.
Go forth and claim
look how beautiful this new UI is. I'm totally unrelated note. We do have all these new UI for the previous patch, and you can see the quest status on each of the individual talents as they slide up. They're always available, and then you can just slide it out of the way. Sorry, I'm in love with Ollie's UI. Shout out to Ollie for always making a beautiful Heroes UI. I know it's a lot of work for him because there's no custom tools to do it. He just knows how it works because of his experience modding StarCraft. And very nice. Zeratul does end up getting kicked off here. This is currently a full brawl follow. But we're going to see Falstad just casually soaking in the mid lane while this is going on. They're not neglecting their macro just because they are getting the objective.
Yeah, we are going to see almost a full level lead already picked up for this side of Gear Gaming. Now the stun goes out onto the ETC. He's going to have to slide out, but they can just put... Oh, and a B step comes out. I think he's actually trying to back though. That might have been a false B step.
He wasn't actually B stepping. He was literally trying to back and got interrupted. A little bit different.
It looked like a little bit of it. I thought it was rolling back on in, but Mystically's in his top lane. He should be able to bully out. He's trying to get his...
No, the root misses, and Aramis is not going to be able to make anything happen here unless he does. That is a lot of damage. Mystically's has barrel roll. He has that shield. He's going to be absolutely fine. It's worth noting that Mystically's did go static shield at 4, and that is the talent you want to take on Falstad if you're worried about getting ganked by Zeratul, because that instant shield you get from immediately Wing the Zeratul as soon as he reveals himself puts you in a position to not die. And turns out not dying is pretty good at winning the do.
We're gonna see these bottom sappers taken by Alamau and Skull Kid here, and obviously this bottom lane highly prioritized because of the fact that it has 2 sapper camps in this lane. So if you do control the enemy's bell tower and you can get both those camps, that is 6 shots you could potentially get onto their core. Now it looks like Falstad rotating down the middle lane, and we might see a little bit of a brawl. I think they're trying to go onto Artemis on that Zeratul. They're kind of splitting damage. They do secure the kill onto the Malfurion and also onto the Zeratul, so really well done by the side of Gear Gaming.
That's interesting. Wow, that Arthas has no disengage whatsoever. We're actually going to see full W build out of Falstad. This is something we not see very often. For those of you who don't know, charged up increases the number of lightning shot strikes by 2, and its charges by 25, and its range by 25%. So you can stay on targets more easily, get consistent items in the shield. We're actually seeing Kala's Embrace at 4 for Tassadar. That increases the lifesteal on the auto attacks. It's funny that actually has a little bit of anti-synergy with Zul'jin, because it now provides enough life leech that his damage heals him more than he loses when his trait is active, so he can never intentionally decrease his life if he has a Tassadar shield on him, which sometimes you want to do as a Zul'jin. It's kind of interesting dynamic going on here. We're going to see how this works out in practice, but they definitely seem to be working. It seems like their mechanics are so strong that they're just winning these team fights. These little odd interactions are not that big a deal. EDC does end up going down. Percival's extremely low, but he does still have jump, and he uses it way too late to get out of there, but they do secure the kill onto Zeratul and Arthas despite that, so it ends up being a 3-for-1.
They could get the kill. The added range is actually doing work. Is it going to be able to secure it? No, it's not. That charged up talent actually almost securing a kill if that heal didn't come through from Malfurion. I think that would have been a dead volley, but they're going to be picking up this sapper camp in this bottom lane, so going to be trying to force that a little bit. Interestingly enough, a fly going up, I'm sure that's to secure level 10, but he won't be able to join this fight down in this bottom lane.
I don't think they care. They have Archon, they have Avatar, they're going to have Taz Bingo, and presumably Rhaegar is going to walk Ancestral, and we haven't seen that just yet. We're actually going to see Room Tap at level 7 for Arthas combined with Frozen Waste. There's sort of a gimmicky build people have been running with Icy Talons at 4 and Room Tap at 7. Not going Icebound Fortitude when you went Frozen Waste, though. I think it's a pretty questionable decision. Icebound Fortitude is straight up one of the best talents in the game. Alex the Pro G often says that it's the second best talent in the game after Cleanse in the competitive scene, at least. So that gives you an idea of where pros think it is in terms of its power level. Now taking it on Arthas is questionable, especially since you keep dying to Burst and Lockdown.
Yeah, that is actually really interesting to not see Icebound, but just pushing this bot lane is going to get a lot of work done. Unfortunately, one of those sappers ran itself into one of those towers, but I don't think that's going to be cause for too much concern. The engage might be going in. Nice bump actually going to stop the jump, but that's a gust onto the backline, and now Alamau, he is in with the arc on the slide from Klug. Going to be trying to disengage, but Klug is going to be the one that's going down. Akuma in a bit of trouble to get the stun onto the Arthas. Nice cleanse going out on him, but they're not going to be able to pick up that kill. So 1-for-0, and losing a couple ultimates there. Skull Kid still just battling it out.
It's nice if someone else commenting. I occasionally have to do camera work. Normally I just keep it zoomed out max the whole time. They will secure that bottom tower, and here's where we get to the Korean style of play. The Koreans will sit on that tower when they have it and just never let the enemy take it back while sending one person out to soak, preferably someone that has a global so they can instantly come back. We've seen the North American team sort of do this ring around the rosy thing. We're like, oh, you have to take this back, so we'll grab this one. You have to take this one back, so we'll grab this one. And I think the Korean style play is a little bit more consistent because controlling this bottom tower gives you control of 2 of the 4 altar spawns, pretty much 100%. And that is just more consistent value going on. Like, Percival taking a lot of damage here, he will get out. EDC going down again. Ancestral is going to allow Percival to re-engage. They might be able to get a stun on the Zalcor here. Not looking like it's available. They get those shots pushed in. And here's where we talk about a little bit of a bug with the current UI. Ever since the patch, Towers of Doom has had percent-based damage on the core. It's 2.5% per shot. So of the 40 shots, you can kind of tell this is like 1 shot away from being 20. So I think they have 21 shots remaining versus 36 shots remaining. But that's just some caster math, and hopefully that'll be fixed with the coming patch. But for now, we just kind of have to deal with it as observers, and I apologize for that, even though it's not my fault. It's Blizzard's.
I like seeing teams adapt. Interestingly enough, when they won Heroes Hype, there was a bit of an engage going on. First of all, I don't think he has anything to worry about. That Klug now going in with the slide, but I don't think they can really damage this front line. Actually, it's going to be the Zeratul going down. Now, Percival going back just a little bit. Skullkid's still low health, but as we know, for Zul'jin, he's going to be doing so much damage when he is at this lower health. And one thing Michael Udall brought up was that he would have liked to see Gear Gaming hold the bottom side. And that's what they're doing. But Percival going to go down in this engage.
Yeah, he was out of mana. He actually did not have enough mana to Avatar or jump. If he had just backed off 5 seconds sooner, they could have gotten out of there. Falstad got top by himself. That might even be a worthwhile trade, to be honest, because now Falstad can fly down and hopefully secure some of these kills. But it would have been much cleaner if they left a little sooner.
Yeah.
As opposed to not leaving at all and continuing to engage in this insanity. VP will secure the kill into Mysticlease. No, the Tassadar shield is there, and they still have their own tower to retreat behind. Zalcor is out of mana. This is he did take Frozen Waste, so he does have that mana concern, but his E was up a little too much. And Aramis has no health left. He went back in. He sought the dark and he found it. The darkness of the grave. I don't think going in right there was a good decision.
Oh, is he going to get this? And he does, able to secure the kill with that charged up once again. There was a fight going on while I was trying to make that point, but what I was saying was they did that whole NA kind of ring around the rosy, trade out towers, and it's really good to see that they took that to heart. They, what kind of Udall talked about was holding that bottom. You're always going to get more value because you're not giving the enemy team back experience. When you do that ring around the rosy, yes, you are gaining experience from taking other bell towers, but in return, when the enemy takes that bell tower back, they're getting experience as well. So this is a much more efficient way to play ahead.
Yeah, and it accelerates the game. The only time you want to accelerate your opponent to higher level like that is when you're multiple talent scores ahead or you have a late game comp. Like if you had an Azebo and you really wanted to get him to 20, accelerate the game as much as you want. But, I mean, you don't want to get Zeratul to 16 and give him Sense to death. You don't want to get Arthas to 20. You don't really want to get ETC to 20 either. Like and you're happy with your comp. Your power level is fine where it is. Your comp spikes mostly at 13. You're 13 already. Don't accelerate the game, just grind it out and sit on top of them, make them pay for trying to get their own buildings back. And this brawl is just going on. That is a beautiful VP. If they can get the Twilight Dream here and make something happen, but no, fly in. That was, I'm not gonna say it was an NA Mosh, but, and that's a Tazdingo with an Ancestral. Arthas one going down, EDC going down, no frontline remaining. Akuma, they're actually diving.
The return BM. I'm telling you, he's gonna kill him. Skullkid able to secure that and get out. Yeah, the Mosh, it really well played by Needham. In fact, actually instantly cleansed Skullkid out of that Mosh. Skullkid was not in that Mosh for more than like a split second before he got actually cleansed out. A little bit of counter synergy on the Ancest and the Tazdingo. I would have liked to see the Tazdingo run a little bit longer before getting Ancested, but that could have just been, you know, panic, like wanting to save him, and there's not time to communicate that both of them are going to be using their ults. Now they are pressuring up in this mid lane, though, and they should be able to secure this with 16 mid fort very low already.
Quick update, Falstad is at 30% bonus damage on his W, so that feeds back into his shield and into the extra charges he took at 13 with Thunderstrikes. Kind of an interesting build. It's funny, it's the highest single target damage build he has, but normally it's tied to such a long cooldown you don't concern about it, but he's been sieging buildings all game. He's been split pushing not lanes, but buildings. So we have Specialist Falstad here, and it seems to be working out for him quite well. We actually see Shroud of Aduin on Zeratul at 13 instead of that Mending Strikes. Pretty standard counts across the board otherwise. Falstad using his global to get that bottom and is going to be able to fly up. And that's going to be a VP Gus to deny the follow-up. Plug is out of position and low, ends up going down. And that's going to be a full team wipe, I think. I don't think anyone gets out of here.
Yeah, that it essentially gives Skullkid 2 lives, the Ancestral connected and then the Tazdingo to follow that up. So they took his health bar out twice, essentially, and he still did not die. that is going to be 13-minute GG going on over to the side of Gear Gaming. So maybe East Coast Revolver's getting a little bit of, what they gave the first round.
Wow. So again, these are best of threes. So we will be going into the next game here momentarily. See if East Coast Revolvers can bring it back, or if Gear Gaming will take it in a clean 2-0. Well, now that we've been getting these games going, we are really ticking along, actually.
Mm-hmm. These games have been very quick. When I saw the Zul'jin, I had to kind of gather my thoughts. Just because Zul'jin caught me off guard, I was really convinced it was going to be the Greymane. I think Greymane works in that comp as well, but Zul'jin just has so much range that I kind of agree with it more after seeing it, with how the front line has to kind of move in. It protects you against the Zeratul because you do have Taz Dingo, and then you can have the Ancest to follow it up. And he was able to outpace the Vala by 13k, so that's a pretty hefty margin.
And they played it correctly. Like, when you have a Zul'jin, you want to skirmish constantly with the Zul'jin to get his stacks up as quickly as possible, but you need to protect him until he finishes the quest, so he has that range. And that's exactly what they did. They went deep, but the tanks were always in front. Percival was absorbing a lot of damage, so waiting for the last possible second to jump out. Sometimes he didn't even make it out, but they always traded up in terms of kills, and the Zul'jin lived and got his stacks, which was the critical part. If you're trading up and people are completing critical quests and your tank's dying,
mm-hmm.
You need your tank for the front end of the fight. You actually kind of don't need your tank for the back end of a fight in a lot of cases. Worst thing to lose early on is the support, but the support positioned well, so they always had that safety net, and it worked out.
So going into this next game, it looks like we did get lobby up. So, what is the mentality after kind of a very dominant performance? If you are the side of East Coast Revolvers, kind of what mentality do you think you need to take into this next game?
I think the smart thing to do is reset. Pick a map you're comfortable on. Pick a map where you feel like you have a lot of your comfort heroes are very top tier, and play comfort heroes. I tell the story over and over and over again because it never gets old. Tempest beat MB Black on Infernal Shrines with Vala when Falstad was the meta hero, and Vala was like, yeah, Vala's okay. And Lockdown just they did an interview after the game, and they said, well, Lockdown doesn't know how to play Falstad, and he's really comfortable in Vala, so we drafted Vala because he was comfortable, even though it wasn't the right pick. They literally said, this was not the right pick. If this were a good draft, we would not have picked Vala. And I was like, okay, the role mattered, right? They needed a ranged AA damage, but if literally the best two teams in the world will draft comfort picks when someone doesn't know how to play a hero, draft things you're good at when you're actually trying to win, like just 100% of the time. So I think some teams will play heroes they're not good at, but they're right for the draft, and then they won't perform on them, and they'll blame the draft. And the draft wasn't the problem; it was that they picked the heroes that they don't have to perform on.
Yeah, I feel like even though a hero might be quote unquote, OP, if you perform very well on a hero, then it doesn't really matter if you underperform on the quote unquote OP hero, and then there's a hero that's about average, but you play very well. I mean, it's no question which hero that you're going to get more value out of.
You would think that, but there's some debate. And at the same time, people make fun of the one tricks who are Grandmaster. But if you're a one trick, if you can only play one hero well, but you play that hero every game in Hero League and get to Grandmaster as a result of it, yeah, you're not good at any other hero, but you're still a Grandmaster on that hero. Sort of an interesting distinction.
Yeah. I guess I was thinking more broadly just for competitive, whereas like most people will have, like, I would say 4 or 5 heroes that they're very, very good on in their role. Tanks get it pretty easy because there's not too many tanks. I mean, they brought it back a little bit more.
I mean, supports had it easy for a whole year. There was Uther and Rhaegar.
Yeah, like for the tank role, as long as you can play like ETC Joe, Muradin, like those were the 3 heroes that everyone was like, for a bit there, that was all people would draft.
It was good. And then you had the R meta, and everyone drafted Thrall, Diablo, Rhaegar. But I mean, if you learn the basic concepts of positioning and what you can be really good at, what's necessary, like drafts need a tank. What does a tank do? Drafts need a healer. Why do they need a healer? Why is a healer so important? You can not necessarily have to understand every potential combination in the game and perform reasonably well, as long as you're on the same page with your team and your mechanics are all good. But getting into this draft, which we've not yet talked about at all, Battlefield of Eternity, a 2-lane map. 2-lane maps are far and away the easiest to win or lose in the draft. And they have this, because you can't catch up when you're behind by soaking. With only 2 lanes, you can't just catch up to soak. You need to get kills. So if you draft a comp that is dependent on like winning the immortal race and can't ever kill anyone, you lose 1 immortal, you're done. You're never gonna close that gap. But you also need to make sure that you can have. Do you go for a 4-man defense with 1 person missing? Do you go for pure race and just have a lot of mobility? Do you go for poke race? And I was gonna say, Li Ming and, as we saw at Western Clash, Nazeebo are considered the top 2 heroes for the poke race, because even if there's 4-man defense, you can't block the Nazeebo spiders at all. And if you want to block Li Ming shots, you have to eat the damage. So,
yep.
Greymane, one of the top solo racers who's otherwise viable. The top solo racer, for the record, is Samuro, but then you're playing Samuro, so that's why we don't see it very often in competitive play. The Nubrak ban is really smart. A Nubrak completely shuts down Li Ming.
Yep.
Between his spell armor. So I like this draft quite a lot, actually, from both sides so far. Smart picks.
Yeah, that Vala gonna be getting a lot of value on the Immortal, but the Arthas actually makes me think they're gonna be more focused on defending. Arthas, his race potential is pretty terrible, to be honest. So it makes me think they're gonna be trying to defend their own and find some kills, or potentially just do a 4-man defend and let the Vala attack theirs. Just kind of depends on these last 2 picks. I'll have a better grasp of what they might be doing after seeing these, but that's my initial read off of this draft.
Ooh. So that's 2 physical armor tanks with a heavy sustain healer against a Greymane. Greymane's not going to get anything done in this game. Nothing at all. The concern here is the Li Ming is going to get an incredible amount of value. They don't really have anything to shut that down, and they don't have a burst healer to make people recover. And if they give Li Ming even 1 reset, even if it is on a frontliner, they're going to be in trouble. Zarya's still available. I wouldn't. Oh, okay.
Whoa.
So they pick Medivh. I was going to say they need to pick an anti-burst hero of some kind, and I wanted a Zarya because I think Zarya is busted, but Medivh is really strong as well. And Medivh actually fixes a huge problem for this comp as well, mobility. Portals will allow the relatively mobile Arthas and Drana just ping, 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 teleport around the map and engage in awkward places, whereas Gear Gaming has a Tyrael, so they have a lot of mobility and sanctification. This is an interesting draft. It's 2 different kinds of mobility. It's teleportation from place to place versus just moving faster.
Yeah, it's... Let's get some predictions rolling. I think and I kind of want to do it just based off draft alone, but I think that Gear Gaming takes this for the simple reason that I think you go Cursed Bullet, and if you can not get Force of Willed on that Cursed Bullet, that then will allow Li Ming to maybe deliver some fatal damage to this front line, combined obviously with Greymane possibly jumping in and some CC from the front line. But both teams are very tanky too with the double front line.
I think your game is going to win because they have the race, and pre-10, East Coast Revolvers does not have the initiation they need to deny the race. And if you're losing the first 2 Immortals for free, again, 2-lane map, you're not going to be in a position to come back unless the enemy team makes a mistake. Normally with Arthas, what I want to see on Battlefield of Eternity in particular is you draft him for a snowball. You abuse his early game strength to get the first few Immortals, Sindragosa the third or the second one, depending on how it plays out, and then just snowball the game from there. And then just be very careful never to die so you don't get the catch-up mechanic. But their comp is not capable of doing that because Joe is not an early game tank.
So, guys, on this left side, it is going to be East Coast Revolvers. In the blue trunks, it will be Aramis playing that Medivh, Kalin playing that Vala, Akuma on the Malfurion, Zalcor on the Arthas, and Plug playing the Johanna.
And left hand or right hand side of the map, I can tell my left from my right. We will have Gear Gaming with Mysticles on Li Ming, LMAO on Tyrael, Skullkid on Greymane, Percival on ETC, and Needham on Rhaegar, just in time for the initial brawl in the middle. Pretty similar talents across the board. We are going to see Q build. We're seeing Reinforce for Johanna, which is technically a little bit worse than Regen Master than it was prior to the changes recently, but it's hard to finish Regen Master on this map. And otherwise, we're seeing very standard talents. Lightning Bond for level 1 for Rhaegar will help him a lot with the race. That's a lot of free damage onto R in this. And there's a difference between being like, yeah, Li Ming's burst is really predictable. You can literally see the orb coming, just force of will it, and actually being able to do that consistently over and over and over again. Hopefully he's a little bit better at it as the game progresses. Yeah,
this is going to be a kind of a cause for concern, I would say, a little bit here, is the force of will.
Yeah, looks like the 4-man's at a little bit of a standstill. We're going to check the solo lane. This is a solo lane that new Arthas can actually push in harder than Tyrael can push it out. It used to be closer to being its high. You can see LMO doing the right thing here, righteousing in his minion wave to make it longer for Zalcor to clear, and then smiting. I really like studying solo lane matchups. It's one of the most interesting aspects of the game that you can break down to like a strict right or wrong answer. But
so that portal going to go out for Klug. He's actually going to be going in with the force of will. Up in this top lane though, it's still kind of hanging out. Actually, Klug getting very low. The portal now goes down. Percival has got Kalin kind of solo out. That ball is in trouble, and she eats the orb, and that's going to be the first kill of this game.
And here we see the problem with Medivh comps. If you haven't spent a lot of time practicing together, people don't flick the portals. Even if you're on comms, the Medivh player could literally be shouting, "Take the portal! Take the portal! Take the portal!" And everyone's like, "I'm just going to walk this way." And you know, Klug lived there, but Vala didn't, and they both could have clicked the portal and been 100% fine. This is the problem with even practicing Medivh comps. If you're practicing a Medivh comp, you're not practicing any other comp, and if you're playing a Medivh comp, you like gotta constantly be aware. Portal, 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 portal.
Percival actually going to get rooted up. He gets the condemned lands on him. A big damage coming out from Mysticles. The slide from Percival goes in. The force of will is used. Aramis does try to portal out. Percival kind of running for his life here. Skullkid trying to get that damage out. Needham a little bit separated from the team. A little bit of portal deking going on as well. And this Immortal is going to get sent to halftime. The slide goes out with nice force of will to prevent the burst. Actually going to go down is the Medivh now. So Zalcor and Klug a bit separated from the rest of the team. Skullkid just trying to pump that damage out onto that Arthas, while the Malfurion is going to drop in the backline and the Arthas. So that's going to be a 3-0.
That Arthas is so insane. He was literally taking 3 people for 15 seconds, and it would have been even longer if he'd gone Rhyme at 1 as opposed to the Frost Presence. It's so difficult to kill Arthas. He doesn't have an escape, but man, can he take some punishment.
I wanted to go back just to the point you made about Medivh. I actually got to talk to Glaurung about it a little bit, and the aspect of communication when playing Medivh at a competitive level is pretty intense. They'll even go as far as saying who should be taking a portal and who should not. So those, like, if you want to get an idea of the communication needed to make Medivh work really well, that's what's going on when portals are going down. They're telling who should take the portal, and like only this person should be taking the portal. It's a very high level of communication.
Yeah, because if everyone goes through the portal at the same time, then you're staggered and grouped up. If you're using the portal as an initiation mechanic, which they are here because both Johanna and Arthas lack initiation mechanics, yeah, like Johanna goes first, and then 3 seconds later maybe Arthas goes through, or Arthas goes first and takes the initial brunt, and then Johanna comes through and kills for the Arthas and gets displaced when you get the root. Speaking of Johanna getting absolutely erased, but that level of coordination is necessary to max out Medivh, and that's why we don't see him except for the very highest levels of competitive play, because it takes so many hours and so much practice and such clean comms to make it. Which is another reason I would have really preferred to do Zarya, because Zarya is just a lot easier to make work that look painful.
That was a nice snipe by Mystically. He's kind of showing off a little bit. He is pumping out some serious damage. He is already up there at almost 12k, doubling anyone on the enemy team. Skullkid actually right behind him on that Greymane as well. So the side of Gear Gaming pumping out some serious damage.
Yeah, level 7 talents have been picked up for Gear Gaming. Speaking of, I forgot to put a 1 on their scoreboard. This is in fact a 1-0 series in Gear Gaming's favor right now. Calamity picked up for Li Ming. We do see Wizened Duelist picked up from Skullkid. That's confidence. That's what that is. That is the increased auto attack damage on based on the number of heroes you have killed. It's a quest, but it resets if you die. So we haven't seen it for a while in competitive play, but that is just confidence. Right? Are we going to see the invade? Are they actually going to just go invade the Bruisers? They thought about it and backed off. Looks like East Coast Revolver just twigged to it a little bit. That's a beautiful displacement with the slide. Arma's going to take a lot of free damage there, but he does Force of Will himself and gets away. For now.
Yeah, now we're going to see the pursuit kind of going on. Percival not able to catch up to Arthas. He's just so much slows coming out of that hero. Klug going to be able to walk out just fine, being Johanna, being that very tanky frontliner. We do see a rotation up into this top lane, though, and I think they might try to dive this ball up.
This is the advantage of Tyrael. Tyrael can just go wherever he wants. He is the original OGV. We see some nice goaltending on both sides of the portal here, the slide, but no damage is available to follow it up. Kaelin does get out of there, but at the cost of a fort, which means that the next Immortal is going to be pushing onto the other fort, and that already has its missing wall, so that's going to be at least a keep wall if they win the Immortal. Ball, it does finally end up going down. The chase is real.
Yeah, they are just playing in such a dominant fashion. Now they are going to be moving over into this Immortal phase, and with Li Ming, with Greymane, and even Rhaegar having taken Lightning Bonds at level 1, the amount of damage that they can do to this Immortal is very high.
We're going to see Percival basically peeling for the Immortal, knocking people away, denying them that free damage. They're going to win the Immortal regardless, but he's doing this for the shield amount. Meanwhile, we do see Tyrael soaking the bottom lane, trying to get closer and closer to 10. They want to have 10 as they start pushing with the Immortal, and leveraging that advantage to get a keep. If they push with the Immortal with 10 and get a keep plus 1 or 2 picks, that will actually be gained. So it is something that is very much on their mind. They don't want anyone to die right now.
Yeah, Mysticles has to be a bit careful. He does have Needham right next to him, so they'll be a bit safe. They are going to back up, and they do have that luxury since they are very far ahead in that race. And currently just receiving passive XP that will get them closer and closer to 10. Percival actually sliding in. He gets hit by the Immortal Stun. Aelonaut's going to go in and join him, but he does have Needham as well. Mysticles getting zoned in the back of this fight by Klug. Zalcor, though, nicely done, able to port himself out, but Klug might not be so lucky. No, the combo from Li Ming unable to connect onto him.
But they're so low they can't contest anymore, so this is going to be a 1 Immortal for Gear Gaming. And again, they're going to be 10. Oh, they get the kill into Aramis here. They do. They reset those Master's Touch stacks as well. And that was not what they wanted to see. We'll see Wave of 4, Sanctification, go for the throat. Picked up ETC. Oh, are they going to get the pick on the Wallet? Kaelin does dodge the orb, and no, not quite enough zoning potential just yet. They're not pushing. Are they going to go for top keep here instead of pushing with the Immortal?
I think that's exactly what they're doing. They recognize that they are level 10, but the roots are going out. They're actually taking a lot of damage here, getting most of it healed back up from the Rhaegar, but I kind of like this play. They're going to just sit up here, and Ancestral actually having to be forced out. The slide goes in. The Mosh Pit connects onto 2. Force of Will, the Sanctification on top of it. That's going to be the death of that Arthas. The portal's up, but Klug is not taking it. Force of Will goes out. He's still just kind of standing in the front line. The slide going to connect, and that's going to be the death of Klug as well. So this Immortal is still probably going to take down at least the front wall, but I think they might have been able to get more value actually pushing with the Immortal.
I think they absolutely could have gotten a keep.
What do you think of that play?
They absolutely could have gotten a keep there if they pushed with them in the exact same circumstances. Tyrael can go over the wall, sank himself. Greymane can dive over the wall. Li Ming can teleport along. The only person they're leaving behind is Rhaegar, who doesn't need to be in the front line anyway, and EDC, but he can kill the sidewall and come in with the power slide afterwards. They could have gotten so much more there. And opening up, it's great that they got both keep walls, or at least one keep wall and damage on the other one, but getting an entire keep is just way better. I think that they did not pressure enough considering the lead they had. And now they're forcing a fight when they could just soak 13 and be up a talent tier. I think they're confident of their team fighting. This makes sense to them, but it's nowhere near the safest, most high value play they could have made.
Yeah, no Mosh Pit. The ley line actually going to connect onto 1, and that's a falling sword. It's going to connect over there onto Needham. They're actually pressuring in. The slide comes out. The counter engaged. Nice Force of Will going to keep him alive. That's going to be Skull Kid actually going down. And Callan on the back. He does get cleaned up by Mysticles. The portal goes out, but they're still pressuring forward. This could be a big mistake for the side of East Coast Revolvers, though, because that damage from Mysticles is still there. It's going to connect. Now we do have Li Ming resets going over to the side on Zalcor, though. Akuma running for his life. He's not able to dodge that orb. And now Zalcor might be the next to fall. Nice combo going to hit. One more auto. Oh, and the sword going to secure that one.
And they do have a siege camp pushing in. They did play him earlier, so they're now on keep as 5 with a camp. They could just secure this if they wanted to. It looks like they're not going to risk it. They're just going to back up. The death timers are too short. They decided that almost turned out really bad for them. If there'd been a little bit better focus fire from East Coast Revolvers, and they managed a little bit, the Force of Wills have been better. They could have denied that one Li Ming reset that really turned the entire fight against them, and actually come out on top of that because they secured the first kill. So Gear Gaming win that literally by the skin of their teeth. It was really close. It never seems close when a team that has a Li Ming wins, but it really was.
Yeah, if you take away resets, that fight doesn't look like that either, even with the kill that they did get. First of all, though, going to connect on the slide. He does have a mosh pit available. Looks like he's going to be holding that. Clug just kind of dancing around with that condemn. Now Ailamau is in. Skull Kid on the flank. He gets onto Armus. Force of Will is forced down. He is going to be blinded, but Zalcor gets slid onto. The root goes out onto 2. The cleanse onto Zalcor, but still no portal. He is going to take it now. Nice ley line, going to disengage. There goes the Dream and the Falling Sword. The mosh pit, though, going to connect. That's going to be an ROV, though. Zalcor goes down now, but they already lost their ETC and their Tyrael.
I gotta say I love Falling Sword. It's just a fun heroic, and it does so much damage. That was a talent tier down, and that was not favorable for them. Gear Gaming taking, again, strange fights. They win the race. They can just go race, and instead they're constantly doing this brawling. They're a little bit too focused on fighting instead of focusing on their comp. Their comp wins the race. The Immortal is the win condition for the map. Go forth and fight no more unless you're fighting an Immortal who will help you win the game. Hopefully they manage to finally secure a keep off of this. Or, excuse me, the East Coast Revolvers actually wins the Immortal because of that decision making from Gear Gaming, and now they have a chance of coming back. Like, this is how you come back on this map. You secure kills when you're behind. Can't come back by soaking, but you can come back by getting kills, and Gear Gaming just like let that happen.
The wickedness of hell dwindles before
yeah, maybe a bit of overconfidence a little bit. We do see this Immortal going to be pushing down the shields, though, already going to be going down on the Immortal. Actually, Syndragosa popped. And now, first of all, a little bit far out, he's able to slide back to safety. But there's the Falling Sword. It's going to land on the Skull Kid. Do they have the root follow-up? It does. It hits on the Skull Kid, and this could be disastrous here. He's able to dash on out of there. The Ancestral does hit, and now they're looking like they want to change or turn this fight. Ailamau on in the Condemned cable to connect on him. Akuma's the only one that's really low. The ley line, it does hit. Nice Force of Will there onto Zalcor. He needs to get out, though, but he's just living. The Sanctification, though, it does go down. Now Zalcor, Force of Will once again. He gets the root. Nice Twilight Dream, but no heroes falling for Gear Gaming. They're able to secure 2 kills.
That was just a messy fight. They didn't use Leyline first, and without the Falling Sword follow-up, Falling Sword got none of the value that we've been seeing in the previous fights where it immediately chunked people. Instead, Li Ming resets happened, 5-man wipe. And that's just East Coast Revolvers not respecting their own combo. They had a clear combo, Leyline Seal Falling Sword, with Vala sort of doing Rain of Vengeance in the back for the follow-up to isolate, Arthas' root follow-up, Malfurion's root follow-up. And they didn't do their own combo, and they lost. The other fights, they've done the combo, they've been close, they almost won one, they won one. It was unfortunate. Here we again have a free Falling Sword. It does have a very short cooldown. I don't think they'll be able to secure any kills here. Just because the movement speed from Tyrael is going to allow him to get out of here. Unless Arthas just kills him. That's always a possibility. That slow is so oppressive.
It looks I actually just saw in chat that someone asked if Vala misclicked her level 4 just because she did go Monster Hunter at 1 and then Creed of the Hunter at 4. We're going to see a ley line attempt, unable to connect, and now East Coast Revolvers looking for this steal. They should get this. They are still down their Rhaegar. I don't know if they want to fight missing their healer. Percival gets rooted up, but he should be able to walk out. The damage, mitigated from nice force of will. Percival slides in, the mosh pit goes out, but instantly it takes Hansel. Nice Twilight Dream. Percival is so chunked, and now Scorpion could be the next to fall. Can they secure onto him? They get the kill on the Tyrael and the Greymane, and now that's a 2-for-1, and they're starting to claw back into this game.
Here's a funny synergy. Condemn pulling into Arthas' Frozen Tempest means they can no longer get away from the Frozen Tempest. Did Volley misclick her 4? I think the logic here, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but the logic here for the Laval's level 4 is that double tank and even Greymane have very, very high health. So you go the auto attack at level 4, which as a reward does give you that 100 basic attack damage increase and increases your attack speed. In addition, Hatred grants an additional 2% basic damage, attack damage per stack. And then you go Manticore at 16, and you try and chunk those high health heroes as quickly as possible. Hopefully, really odd talent actually is Zealotry here. Zealotry is not the right talent for Tyrael. You pretty much go Reciprocate. You only ever see Zealotry in the NA scene, which is not one that plays Tyrael. Koreans go Reciprocate 100% of the time, and Tyrael's played in Korea more than any other region. They absolutely know what they're doing in Tyrael. It's just Zealotry does not give you enough value, especially with the removal of Imposing Will, because you can make an uptime for Imposing Will uptime before, but with Imposing Will gone, it's not very good.
I wish the side of East Coast Revolvers would have finished that camp, because they could have sent maybe Arthas or someone just to defend the slide. Actually going down the combo. Nice Force of Will going to stop that combo from coming out. Leyline goes out. Do they have their combo? The Twilight Dream? No. Mosh Pit on top of the Sanctification. And that's going to be a dead Arthas now. Akuma could be the next to fall. Good Force of Will is keeping him alive, but he's not really utilizing these portals all that well. Now, Plug could be the next target. Armis does able to get his bird form off, but Plug does go down.
That hurt to watch. That Twilight Dream did not go off quite early enough. It had enough time to get countered by Condemn. You gotta time that out. One of the big things that you're gonna learn as you advance in the competitive scene and going down here as well, that you have to time things. 2 seconds, okay, I have to start casting at 1.75, 1.8, 1.6, depending on the ability, right? If you don't time these things out, you don't execute the wombos crisply enough, people will sank, people will cleanse, people will even use disjoints and teleport out. Your timing has to be crystal. It has to be perfect. And with the interrupt, we didn't see Falling Sword even used, even though it was available. That was not what they wanted to have happen here, which is a shame, because Medivh at 16. 16 is Medivh's biggest power spike. Master's Touch is finished. That's the chance that these Coast Revolvers had to completely turn this game around, and now it's gone.
We are going to see a very healthy Immortal now pushing down into this bottom lane. The slide attempt, it does connect over onto Zalcor, but ETC taking a bit of damage. Percival needs to be a bit careful about his health bar. They do have Ancestral ready. Armis actually getting hit by the Li Ming combo, using Leyline just onto Percival there. They're doing a pretty good job about getting the damage onto this Immortal. Cinder Ghost is going to go out there as the Sanctification. Akuma needs to be careful. He does get go for the throat onto him, so he is going to be going down. The combo from Li Ming is going to connect the Falling Sword, able to hit onto everybody, but I don't think that's going to be enough to turn this fight. Now we are going to see the death of that Johanna. The Immortal, though, almost dead, but I think this should be enough to go forward.
So, for the record, for anyone who's curious, Johanna currently out-hero damaging the Mala. Part of that's the build, but part of that is just how good Falling Sword really is now. But it's surprisingly close. Surprisingly close. Tapping back into the talents, that will be game. Everyone's on core. They have the damage necessary. Tyrael's Death Explosion alone would be roughly 6% of core right here. He's going to eat all those core shots. They actually incest with him. It feels bad. He would have done more damage dead. But it'll be GG. Gear Gaming taking it in a nice 2-0.
Yeah, GG, well played over to the side of Gear Gaming. So that was a pretty interesting match, to be honest. There was some back and forth situations that kind of happened with the team fighting, and that made that game a little bit more drawn out than it had to be.
There were, I would say there were hints of something that hasn't happened yet but is going to happen. if East Coast Revolvers continues to practice and works on a lot of the decision making they've had, but particularly a lot of their team fight mechanics where they're not syncing things up, things are going to be a little bit different. If Glug had taken those portals, he would have died 3 less times. If Arthas had taken those portals, he would have died, I think, at least twice less, and he would have secured 2 additional kills on the Greymane. If they talented a little bit differently, if they'd played their comp a little bit differently, they would have been in a position to really make things happen. If they hadn't drafted the Johanna there, when they had an early game snowball comp and they drafted a mid to late game tank, these are these small things that do mean a lot in competitive. These small decisions across the board, and if they figure themselves out and play at the level we occasionally saw, like for 3 out of every 10 seconds of a team fight. They could be a team to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
But Gear Gaming took that very convincingly in the end.
Yeah, I think maybe loosened the reins a little bit with their shot calling is what seemed to happen, because they can play a very macro focused game. I think they just kind of, what we saw maybe in the first series, we saw a little bit more of a laxed approach maybe. But needless to say, they still took the clean 2-0 and will be advancing in the bracket.
And speaking of the bracket, we can give you guys an update on that. 3D versus Team No Sleep still has not finished, apparently. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe one of the admins can check into that and let me know. Thunder Awakens versus Cyber Scorpions is going on right now. Tyrael picked Nexus Blades. The game was over, guys. He picked Nexus Blades to kill the core, which, if you read my Tyrael guide, is literally the one time it says to pick Nexus Blades. Game's over, Sank's on cooldown. Pick Nexus Blades so you can attack core a little harder and kill it. That scenario is even accounted for in my Tyrael guide. Imported Support versus Nice is being pushed till Thursday because Imported Support is in HEC Open tonight. And that means Gear Gaming will advance. Hopefully it looks like Thunder Awakened versus Cyber Scorpions is being played right now, but I don't know what game they're in, and that one was delayed. Let me see if I can get in touch with one of their captains to see which game they're on.
Interesting, though. Yeah, when you were talking about the Nexus Blades, there's situations, or similar situations, should I say, that I take different talents across level 20 depending on the immediate need of that talent. I've done it on Thrall as well. If you're trying to go core and you think the core race is going to be very, very close, then you get a lot of value from taking that with follow through. And just Thrall's raw damage, upping his auto attack damage. There's some really interesting picks that you can take to at level 20 that will be kind of game changing. Heroic difficulty is another one.
Yeah, there's some pretty interesting choices there. So Thunder Awakened versus Cyber Scorpions is going on right now. They're in game 2. We're not going to wait around because that game's most of the way through, and apparently it's pretty close to being over. So we won't have anything else to cast this evening, unfortunately. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for Grizz for coming on. We apologize again for the technical difficulties at the beginning, admin difficulties, bracket difficulties at the beginning of the stream, and of course the one team that didn't have that one guy that showed up. For the record, they did end up forfeiting, I believe. So
feels bad.
Yeah, unfortunately. There will be we're going to be following 3 teams up, it looks like, next Thursday. We are going to play, it is the top 4 teams, but for seeding purposes, I believe we were playing all the way to a finals on Thursday to see which teams end up going where, and we may even have I think we're going to have a 3rd place match. It may not get streamed, but there's definitely going to be a lot of games this Thursday from some of the top North American amateur teams who are trying to get into the quarterfinals next week to play against the pro teams, who again are going to be Gale Force Esports, Naventic, No Tomorrow, and Superstars. So next week, tune in. You'll get a chance to watch professional versus amateur Heroes of the Storm. Thursday, tune in. You get to see the storyline of these teams, what they went through to make this happen. And then the week after that, April 5th and 6th, we'll actually have the semifinals, the third place match, and the finals to see, do any of the amateur teams make it through? Do they beat any of the HCC teams? Is that the preview to the Crucible that we're going to have? Or do they just take this experience and use it to get better, and then the Crucible ends up differently? It's such a good practice environment for these teams, and such a good event for the competitive scene.
I have actually a quick update too from the Open. It looks like Even in Death took out UTA. UTA is mortal. Even in Death showing up. So that Even in Death is in this tournament, ladies and gentlemen. They were one of the teams that obviously we had to freeze part of that bracket just because they were participating in the Open. So I mean, we're gonna have some spicy games having Even in Death. That will be the next round, I would assume, because Even in Death would move on to Face Gear Gaming. So that could be very, very spicy. But yeah, UTA is mortal, and Even in Death obviously able to play really well and take the series off them.
I want to see those drafts. I wonder if they got outdrafted. I want to see those drafts. But that will be it for us. Thank you for participating, everyone. Thank you for watching. This is the Maelstrom, sponsored by Gear Gaming. Again, we do have the Match Arena link. The code for that is GGMS. If you want to just put in that code, it gives us a free $1, up to, I think, 200. You can see a lot of people doing that. They've been scrolling across here. And we also have a few donations there. Scrolling across. Thank you for the people who are supporting the tournament. It does have a prize pool already. We're just trying to make it a little bit bigger for these teams. So the next time we have an event like this, there's a little bit more interest even from the pro side of things, because of course having these pro tournaments, and you never know, maybe next time we do something different. Maybe we try and invite pro teams, or maybe even pro shot callers, and have them be captains or coaches for an amateur team. Maybe we have a whole round robin series where we invite some of the top amateur teams and give them a coach who's a pro temporarily, something like that. We don't know exactly what the Maelstrom is going to be going forward. We know what it is this time, but this is an event that we want to continue to have happen over and over and over again. So you can follow them on Twitter. That's our schedule's posted up on there. You can follow it on the Battlefy page as well. We do have a Monday pre-show every week. So we already had one yesterday. We actually had a beautiful interview with David Wu, who is one of the founders of Panda Global, who talked about how to build up a competitive scene, something he's done in multiple games. I encourage you guys to check that VOD out. It's on the Twitch channel and it's on our YouTube. There will be another one talking about this week and coming into next week, next Monday, and then the Monday after that. So if you want to keep up with all your gaming news, just tune in on Mondays, even if you don't have time to watch the tournaments. Anything you want to say to our audience, Grizz, before we call it a night?
If you just enjoyed what you see, just check me out on Twitter or Twitch. Those are both Grizz_GG. But other than that, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. And this is why we do it. Just get to bring content to the Heroes of the Storm community. So just thank you, and big shout out to everyone that was able to tune in.
Thank you to our audience. Thank you, Grizz. Thank you, Gear Gaming. I'm Cavalier Guest, and we will see you all Thursday. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.